Looks like we are live on YouTube. This is the Complete Man Podcast, episode number 7. And we are live recording in 3, 2. Welcome back to the Complete Man Podcast with your host, Purdeep Sangha, the Complete Man himself. Purdeep, how are you doing today, man?
What an awesome intro after us connecting. It's been a while, right? Since we've actually recorded an episode.
Yeah, you went on a super awesome sounding vacation.
Yeah, man. After 2 and a bit years of living in COVID and not going anywhere, we basically went to Italy for almost 2 weeks, and it was an amazing trip. Took the family, took the kids. We actually went for my brother-in-law's wedding. He got married in Florence, and just
Nice.
had an amazing time. I was questioning whether I should take my laptop just in case, and I said, you know what, just screw it, forget it. I'm not going to do it. And it was the best thing I did because I literally a couple of weeks before I left, I made sure that everything was handled before I left. I got rid of all my appointments, all my meetings, didn't do anything, and just had a chance to completely unplug and enjoy Italy, man. It's an amazing place. Have you thought of going to Italy? Have you been to Italy?
I have seen pictures of the beaches of Italy and seriously considered going there, but no, I have not taken the leap and actually gone to Italy yet.
Yeah, you got to go, man. My kids loved it. I actually loved it too because pizza and gelato every day, maybe a couple of times a day or a few times a day. So
Nice.
it was an interesting diet while we were there. I got reintroduced to beer, which was nice because now I'm having this craving for more beer. But it was a great trip. Just awesome. And I recommend everybody, just go out there and plan a vacation and go. I think we've been in this lockdown for too long, so we got to go out there and enjoy the world.
All right. Something that you said, and I was talking to one of my clients about this yesterday. You said you didn't take your laptop. And I kind of have this weird rule where in my house, in my office, the studio is where business is done. And then outside of the studio, no business is allowed to be done so that I can be present with the people that I'm with or my family or whatever. The minute I walk through that door, though, my brain is kind of triggered into business mode. And the minute I walk out of the door, it's kind of triggered out of business mode. I find that useful for me. But I do know a lot of people, especially like entrepreneurial minded people, it's hard to leave the laptop at home. It's hard to make that break and say, hey, I'm in vacation mode now. That's almost impossible for a lot of people.
It's crazy, right? You think it's just it's a hunk of I don't know, a screen and some chips and semiconductors, but yet you get so attached to it. But it's the way we live in society today, and we've talked about this many times about our addictions to technology, and we feel like, and the biggest thing is it comes down to fear of missing out, right? We fear, like my fear when I was thinking about the laptop was, what if I get an email from one of my clients and I have to search a file that I don't have access to on my phone? That was my big thing. And I said, you know what, forget it. I've taken care of my clients, and if they can't hold off for a week or two, then too bad, because if it's that critical, and that's what you have team members for, right? To be able to take on stuff. So it's how you set up your organization. And that's the core part of being an entrepreneur. It's a little bit different when you're a solopreneur because, you're the one-man show or one-woman show. But when you have a team, you should be able to unplug and get away. So get rid of that laptop when you're on vacation. Yeah, it's crazy.
Nice. Okay, so what do we got lined up for this week's episode?
Well, today's episode is really about the Renaissance man, aka I'm going to call him the complete man. And this was this brought back a lot of stuff for me when I went to Italy, because Italy is such an amazing place, not only from a cultural standpoint, but a history standpoint, and for the complete man standpoint. And what do I mean by that? Is going there, I saw a lot of the things that we did revolved around the culture of Italy and the past culture of Italy, in terms of the paintings, the amazing paintings that they have, the amazing statues like David, for example, right? These amazing churches that were built. Man, it was incredible. The we went to this one church, the Duomo, and it was just an incredible feat of architecture by men that did these amazing paintings. But the architecture itself was incredible. So it comes back to this concept of the complete man or the Renaissance man, where men actually knew how to do more than one thing. That's essentially it, right?
Mhm.
A man that could do many things, such as paint, such as carve, such as build things, right? But also knew about history, could talk and lecture others and mentor others. It wasn't just this, singular approach where they were experts on one thing and they didn't know how to do anything else. That was actually a real sign for me. And not that I'm going to, this isn't a criticism, but we went for my brother-in-law's wedding, and it was an amazing wedding. Had an amazing group of people that were there. And during some of the conversations, so he's a surgeon, he's a plastic surgeon, and he had a lot of plastic surgeon friends there. And I realized in conversations with them, just simple things like just in terms of finances and other things that they just had no clue about. And so outside of their realm or their domain, they weren't very, not all of them, but they just weren't up to speed with a lot of things. And it just brought back the concept that I was thinking of being in Italy, where it was like men used to know how to do almost everything. And they were actually really good at it. It wasn't that they weren't good at it. They were great craftsmen, right? They were great painters. Look at Michelangelo. Look at Leonardo da Vinci, who was one of my biggest heroes. He was, when I took a look at how the brain operated, I started with Leonardo da Vinci because he was a guy that did paintings. He was a guy that was an inventor. Like, how do you do that? It was incredible. And what kind of brain do you have to do that? But so basically, it just brought back this feeling that, wow, I feel like men more than ever are living one dimensionally, and we need to pull ourselves out of that. And it just gave me a boost when it comes to the complete man and to push it even further, so people and men can actually live more complete lives, like the Renaissance men used to.
So that kind of goes contrary to a lot of the prescriptive advice that we're given nowadays, where we're told niche down or niche down. The economic kind of theory where I specialize in the thing that I'm really good at, you specialize in the thing that you're really good at, and we trade with each other so that we're both made better by relying on the strengths of each other. And it sounds kind of like you're of the opinion that we took that philosophy a little bit too far. We let the pendulum swing a little bit too far in one direction.
Yeah, because if you think about it, I think from a work context, it has some merit, right? If you're a plastic surgeon and you're the best at fixing people's eyes, for example, which like my brother-in-law, it's amazing because you get paid the highest amount and you're considered the best. But you need to be able to do things outside of your occupation, right? And that's ultimately what I'm saying. You need to be able to have proper relationships with people. You need to maybe do things around the house, right? Maybe even some maintenance, because if something goes wrong, like the other day, my water heater went and it started leaking, and it was a holiday and all the stores were closed. So I actually had to do a MacGyver and find some piping and do some stuff and put it, like, it was just crazy. But I had to do that. But the only way I knew how to was because I've done stuff like that before, right? I'm pretty good with my hands when it comes to building and creating things. But this is what it is. And I think not only is it I believe a better way to live, but it's actually a more enjoyable way to live as well, because now you're experiencing different things in life, right? You may come across something that you really, really enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
and you would never have come across it if you just focused on that one singular thing that we're told to do.
It feels kind of like a more rich experience, especially if you're only here one time, which we can debate about that. But if you're only here one time, why would you want to spend most of your adult life only harnessing or only sharpening one blade when there's so much out there to experience, especially nowadays? I mean, back in the day, before the Renaissance, before the age of enlightenment or whatever, where we spent all of our time, you were a farmer or you were a blacksmith and you had to just focus all of your time on that one skill, or a hunter or gatherer. But then we had this opening up of opportunity where now you could explore all these different things because we had gotten to the point where we weren't just trying to spend our entire day collecting enough food to get enough calories. Now we had time to read. Now we had time to explore. Now we had time to congregate and have conversations about these deeper things. And I don't know, man, it does definitely feel like we've lost that a little bit.
And I think you touched on something really cool there. You talked about rich experience, and that's essentially what it was like going to Italy. It was a rich experience. There was so much to take in, and it is profound when you think about the way we live in Western society. And my wife loves Starbucks, and she was looking for coffee to go because we were on the go all the time in Italy. We just didn't spend any time hanging out in our room unless we were just recovering or showering and stuff like that. And so we would get coffee, but there was no coffee to go. They do not allow you to take coffee in a cup.
Mm,
You have to sit there and drink it. And that was a huge lesson for us because we're like, if we're going to enjoy this coffee, we have to sit down and actually take the time to do it. And that was
mhm,
great. And it was just amazing. And to see the culture and the way people actually interacted with each other, extremely nice people. And it was very family oriented. It was just really, really rich, just as you said. And I think when we came back to Canada, my wife and I think we had a lot of withdrawal symptoms.
mm,
And we had these withdrawal symptoms not because we've been on vacation before, but it's like we came back and it was like life was bland.
mm,
Like Canadian life was bland, right? It wasn't that rich. Now we're back into the same routine. And again, back into our narrow niches, right? Back into work, the travel, all that kind of stuff. Um, so it was a big eye opener. But I think for this, I really want to express this because the connection that I made at that time was, and it hit me then. I don't know why I didn't think about it, but the Renaissance man is essentially the complete man. That's what we talk about today,
mhm.
right? Being able to be complete in all aspects of your life, because not only is it more enriching, it's also more enjoyable. But here's the other aspect too: you get better at it. The one thing that all these amazing people had, like the Renaissance men, was because they were great sculptors, they could also be great inventors.
Mm,
Because they were great painters, they could be better sculptors and craftsmen. Um, and their skill in art also allowed them to be better lovers, for example. All these different things connected with each other, right? They overlapped.
mhm.
And so your skill in one area, your passion in one area can actually help you and uplift you and build on your skills in other areas.
I have lots of friends who are bilingual or multilingual. And one of the things that I speak a little bit of Spanish and that's about it, and English, but I have friends that speak like 3 or 4 different languages. And one of the things that we all notice about it is by being able to speak more than one language, you're able to think in more than just one way. You're able to,
Mm,
the way that language is structured, the way that words are structured, the way that concepts are structured in different languages gives you the ability to see things from multiple different points of view. And if you only have that one language, you're only able to think in one way. And I've found that that's the same thing with, for myself, being a copywriter and having a little bit of artistic skill. The art sometimes helps me to see copy in a way that other copywriters can't see it. So that hits
mm,
home for me. When you're exploring different hobbies, different passions, things that you can only learn from that one will translate and give you a richer understanding of other ones.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best way to maybe close out this episode is to just talk about exactly what you just said there. I- Man, I can't express how important this episode actually is. It goes deep to my heart because I think in Western culture we have just forgotten what it means to be complete. We have forgotten the rich experiences, and so I think the one thing I want to leave listeners with right now is, I think if you want to live a more fulfilling life, we have to take a look at all the different aspects of life, not just the one-dimensional aspects. And Nathan, I don't know if you have any last messages for the audience as well.
I would just like to say that the one disadvantage that we have living on this continent is we built this continent after we had already gone through a ton of cultural development on other ones. Your lineage coming from India, part of my lineage coming from here, and part of it coming from Europe. A lot of the culture, a lot of the, like you were talking about, the different art and the different churches and stuff like that you saw in Italy, a lot of that culture and development had already been, it was already a part of the past before we started building this country or Canada, this continent, Canada and America or United States. So we don't have that here. We don't have those 500-year-old stadiums or those 600-year-old churches. Those don't exist here, or some of the cultural, the artwork, the stuff that I just recently watched a movie called RRR, and it took place in India, and it was about the India British conflict. And even at that time, there was a rich history, a rich culture. And in Canada and America, we don't really have that luxury. So just hearing about your experience over in Italy, it just, when you come back to Canada and you're like, oh man, it's just back to the old groove, the boring. I think that maybe there's a little bit of the, you're missing out on the rich history and the rich culture that we don't really have here as well developed as some of the other parts of the world.
You know what? And I'm not going to close out the episode quite yet, because I think there's one more thing, because you just brought this up. We have shortcutted our culture. We have shortcutted everything based on what you're saying. You're absolutely right. We have taken designs from Europe. We have taken all the other and basically said, we're just going to take the best of all the learnings and just build it without actually going through the hard work of actually trying to figure it out ourselves. Mm-hmm. There's something that the gentleman said, our tour guide, when we were doing the tour of the Colosseum, which I've always wanted to see my entire life. That was a one thing, right? But little did I know the movie Gladiator was not actually filmed in Italy. It was actually filmed in Morocco at a different Colosseum, which was really interesting. And our guide actually broke a lot of myths about the gladiators, which was actually incredible. But what he said was really, really interesting. And it hit home. He said, you know what, as much as we have all the technology right now that we have, people aren't actually smarter. Because look at all the intelligence that actually needed to be put into building that Colosseum. It took them only 8 years to build that Colosseum with no technology, no computers, no nothing. The architecture was phenomenal. The thinking was phenomenal. And so I think, just to close it out, there is something to be said about going through the process, going through the hard work, going through the training, learning from our elders, teaching our kids all these little secrets, because all these things, when it comes to hacks and fast tracking, right? And quick win, all this kind of crap that we live in Western society, I believe is taking away from our ability to not only think, but also live, like you said, Nathan, a more rich experience.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to think about after this conversation. I'm going to be pondering some of this stuff myself. Purdeep, if people want to check out more episodes of the podcast, where's the best place to go?
Check out CompleteManPodcast.com or YouTubeForMen.com. But I also want to throw in a quick plug here for our newsletter, specifically for CEOs and entrepreneurs. It's called the CEO Newsletter, and you just simply go to theceonewsletter.com to subscribe.
Nice. All right, man. Until next time, we will catch you later.
We'll catch you later.